Hello, everybody. I am back in our personal group. I was just about to go live on Facebook, and I didn't want to go live on Facebook, but this is special for our group. So welcome back, everybody. This is Kimberly Benjamin, your conference host for How to Live Your Life on Purpose. And I'm excited to be in our special group for our conference attendees talking about how to live your life on purpose this week. And we're going to get into your resume, how to make sure that you have your resume or new resume on purpose, how to focus on your resume. And that's our focus for today. So welcome back. I really appreciate you joining us all this week. What I'm going to go ahead and do now is go ahead and share my screen. So one moment, and go ahead and pull up the PowerPoint presentation. Okay, 1 second. Hold on 1 second, everybody. I may have closed it, so let's see something. Okay. All righty, so I would like to know, what can you see? So for those of you that are here right now, please type below, what are you able to see right now? Are you able to see the PowerPoint slide, or are you still able to see me? I think you're able just to see me right now, but if you can type that, I would greatly appreciate it. What are you able to see right now? You're able to see me, or are you able to see the PowerPoint slide? So I'll give you a moment to type that down below. Okay, 1 second. Let me see what you're typing. Just you, that's what I thought. All right, so I'm going to see if I can pull my power. There it is. There it is. All right, then. So now you should be able to see the PowerPoint slide, as well as you should be able to see me in the corner. So please type below if that's what you're able to see. I know sometimes going between the screens look a little different. So if you can let me know what you see, you should see the PowerPoint and you should see me. So please let me know what you're able to see by typing that down below. I appreciate it. Okay, what are you able to see? Both. Perfect. All right, then. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for coming back and for attending our session today. I know that a lot of people may be jumping in a little bit later or watching replay a little bit later. And this is a topic that I really am excited to be able to help you with, because it is important that for the new year that you know what is a good resume, and that you know what are the elements of a resume. And since I'm a professional resume writer, you know that this is something that I do all the time, right? So I want to make sure that you do have a resume created, and that it is professional, and that it really does show the world and display to the world who you are. Okay, so give me 1 second. I want to make sure we start the recording. I got excited and jumped in here, and don't think I hit the recording button. So let's go ahead and get this recorded. All right. So again, welcome back, everyone. I really appreciate you attending the session. This is Kimberly Benjamin, your Proverbs 31 woman and your purpose coach. And we're going to get into talking about what you need to do to have a strong resume for this year. So again, welcome back, everybody. I really do appreciate it. Today's session is going to be twofold. I'm going to share with you some tips to help you with your resume this year, as well as I'm going to share with you some examples of areas of improvement. I think sometimes people need to see what actually is a good resume, what are some areas of elements of a resume that needs to be worked on. And I'll have those queued up already, so that outside of the PowerPoint presentation today, I'm going to share with you, give you an opportunity to be a human resource professional for a moment, and to evaluate some resumes and to know what's acceptable in that resume, as well as what are some things that, really should be changed or removed. I think sometimes when people look at it that way, you're able to really understand what it's like to be on the HR side. And when we get thousands and hundreds of resumes, stacks and stacks of resumes, we quickly have seconds to be able to go through it. And I want you to know exactly what we're looking for when we do have that time to do it. So again, welcome back, everybody. So let's go ahead and dive right into the training. Go ahead and share my screen again. All right. So again, thanks for attending today's session. We're going to get right into our topic. We have lots of information to cover, and I think this is going to be a topic that's going to be able to bless you as well. So one of the first things I want to share with you is that there are different types of resumes, and people may have heard of it. You probably have heard of this in the past, but you don't understand what makes it different, what makes it unique. And I want to share that with you today so that you'll know. There are functional style resumes as well as chronological resumes, okay? And the purpose of a functional resume, there's some benefits to it. And one of the benefits to it is that you're able to understand that this is a type of resume that you identify what you want on there. Okay, a lot of times we have a chronological resume, which means that it has your most recent job at the top, and then below that is another job that you had prior to that, and then below that it was another job that you had prior to that, right? How many of you are familiar with that? How many of you have a chronological resume? Go ahead and type in there if you do have a chronological resume. You're saying, Kimberly, that's me. You have that chronological. Go ahead and type that down below so I'm able to see your comment, okay? How many of you have a chronological resume? That is a resume that has the information, the most current job at the top, and then it just goes down to, and what job did you have prior to that? And then what job did you have prior to that? And then what job did you have prior to that? That's a chronological. And that is the resume style that a lot of recruiters use. They're used to seeing it. When you have somebody trying to understand what did you do when you worked at this particular job, a chronological resume is that style that they look for, because it lets them know these are all the things that you did. Here are all the accomplishments that you received when you work at that particular employer. Okay. Now, the functional resume, which was the one that I started off with here on the slide, a functional resume is a resume that you can be creative. And when you're trying to go to a different industry or to a different field, or if there's a position you're interested in, you may not have a lot of experience when you look at your current resume, but you do have some experience in particular areas of that particular area of that job that you really want to highlight. Everybody say highlight. Think of a functional resume as a resume when you want to highlight around 6 or 7 categories or 6 or 7 skills that you have. And then you put your accomplishments under those different categories. So if you have a lot of experience in administration, or you have a lot of experience in management, or if you have experience in human resources, there will be those different categories on your resume. It will have management on there. It will have administration. Then it'll have around 6 or 7 bullets up under there as to what you've done in management. It will have human resources on there, 6 or 7 bullets as to what you've done under human resources, etc. That's actually my favorite style resume, because you are in more control as to shining and showcasing your accomplishments. And again, it's critical that you give that HR person, that supervisor, that person that's looking at your resume literally seconds to make a quick decision if they're going to bring you in for an interview or give you a call and conduct a phone interview. So as you can see, with functional, there are some benefits to it. And one of the benefits is that you have the structure, you decide on the categories that you want on there, and it's really a good format when you're trying to move from one industry or career to a different one, okay? And then with chronological resume, the positives to that is, like I shared with you already today, that's the type of format a lot of recruiters like. And the reason why they like it is because they want to know, what did you do when you worked at that particular employer? What did you do when you worked at that employer? So keep that in mind when you think of the 2 different types of resumes. And now some recruiters or some HR professionals like myself, we may create a hybrid resume, which has those 2 different look and feels. We may have a chronological look and feel, but there's a section that focuses on different categories. So we call those hybrid resumes. And as a professional resume writer, that's one of the things that I look at. I figure out, okay, do we need to make this hybrid? Does it need to be a chronological? Does it need to be a functional style resume? And before I forget, for everyone that's attending our Purpose Conference this week, you're going to get a courtesy resume evaluation. Make sure that you email me today, after you watch this video, your current resume. And for those of you who have already done that, feel free to still do it again. That way in my inbox, you will be at the top in my inbox letting me know, here are the resumes that I'm going to give free evaluations for because you're a part of our conference. So make sure you send that to me as well. Email that to me today after you watch this so that I'm able to go ahead and review your resume, give you some tips, and give you a score for your resume. I use a scale from 0 to 3, and then I let people know what their score is when I do their resume evaluation. And I would like to bless you with a courtesy evaluation as well. So again, there are positives and negatives to the chronological. Then one of the negatives to a chronological resume is that, you really aren't that creative. It really does focus on where you worked in the past. And some of you may not be too thrilled about where you worked in the past. You may not be too thrilled about the jobs you've had in the past, and you really don't want that recruiter to focus on that. Okay. And if that's you, then you know that you may need a functional style resume versus a chronological. Now here, I'm going to share with you a couple of images that I found in social media that I thought was kind of cute and helpful. But it just talks about resume etiquette, understanding how many postings that HR professionals do post, and how many resumes do we get. And I want you to know that we really do get a lot of resumes for one job. That's one of the reasons why it's important that your resume is top notch. And sometimes people want to shy away and say, Kim, it doesn't take all of that. And that is not true. Your resume needs to catch that HR person's attention quickly so that you're able to get on the top of the stack of the resume and get into the right pile so they can call you for an interview. Okay. So again, here's some things that we just have on this slide here that talks about what are some of the things that HR professionals look for. They do look for experience. They look for accomplishments. And they want to make sure that that resume really is customized to the position that they're applying for. But notice that the main focus is relevant experience. And that's one of the reasons why I conduct personal consultations with my clients. So I'm able to pull out of them their accomplishments. I'm able to pull out of them their relevant experience, because a lot of times you may not have that information already on your resume. Okay, so those are the type of things that we do look for. Okay, and as you can see at the bottom, HR professionals also look for words like leadership, problem solving, oral and written communication, and just accomplishments in general. Now, here's some do's and don'ts as it relates to resumes, some things to be mindful of. The formatting really does matter, and I don't use templates. So if you're already using a template for your resume, then you know you're behind the game, because the spacing is critical. It's important that you're not bound to limits on that resume as to what you can put on there. A professional resume writer wants to be able to get in there, make the needed changes, and not be bound and constricted to that particular format that you have with your resume. Be mindful of the font that you use. I mean, there's not a particular one that you should use. Here they give you some tips saying that it should be classical, something that will format properly when you submit it to different places, or you have to copy and paste your resume and put it in that box. For job postings, make sure that it doesn't change, the characters and the symbols don't change, so be mindful of that. And it's important that you do keep your resume relevant. Keep it relevant, meaning understand what that HR person is looking for. That's why it's important that you're familiar with that job posting and that you have keywords from the job posting on your resume. And you're probably saying, Kimberly, but how can I do that? There's a particular spot and place where I do that when I create resumes for my clients, so that we do have those keywords on your resume. Because believe me, if the HR professional spent that time to put together that job description, put together that job posting, pay for that job posting to be advertised on social media, I spent the time to put all that together, they're going to look for those words on your resume. So it's important that you do spend some time and make sure that your resume is keyword rich and have the right information on your resume. Okay. And it's important to make sure that your resume really is readable. You're able to read it. And I smile when I think of that, because a lot of times when I ask people to send me their resume, a lot of times they want to go ahead and update it. And I say, don't update it. Send me what you have now. You updating it, that means I'm going to have to wait another 3 days, another week to hear from you. Or you're going to just keep delaying being able to send me your resume because you always feel like you need to update it. So don't update it, send it to me. But I smile because a lot of times people will send me their resume and I can see that they try to squeeze all of that information on 2 pages or 1 page. And the font is an 8 size font or a 9 size font or 10 font. And I'm smiling going, you guys aren't slick. It needs to be at least 11. You need to make sure that people are able to read your resume, because if it's too mumble jumble, the font's too small, the HR person's not going to read it. And believe me, they have enough work to do already in their day. Then they have enough work to go through the stack of resumes. And then, so if your resume is making them work more to try to read it, they're just going to set it aside. So make sure that you actually can read the resume. Now, here's some other tips that I thought was just kind of cute to put on here off of this image. And I do have other content I'm going to share with you too. But just make sure that you do get it proofread. And that's one thing that I do as a professional resume writer. The resumes that I work on for my clients, I then give it to my editor. I have an editor who proofreads all of our resumes. And I do request that my clients follow our process. Because once you follow our process, that we can go through all the steps, and then you can walk away with the resume that's been proofread. That's a resume that I love, because I wouldn't give a resume to a client that I don't love. I've experienced only one time where I had a client who did not go through our process. And I tell you, headaches came out of that. And it just reminded me the importance of following the process. So it's important that you do follow the process so that you can walk away with the resume that is best for you. Okay. And yet we're going to go ahead and go over some additional tips. Okay. Now here's just a resume that we have here. Found this out here on the internet just to give you an example. Some of your resumes may even look like this. It may be formatted this way. I don't like this format because it's too much white space that's dedicated to doing nothing. And then you only have so much space to talk about yourself and to highlight your accomplishments. So be mindful that your resume format may need to change. Okay, just because you found that template somewhere, it doesn't mean you need to use it for your job search. You need to properly utilize all of the space on your resume. Okay, now some of the categories that you may see on the resume, yes, you normally do see a summary. Well, first of all, you normally have your contact information at the top. Here, it's important that we're able to read your name, that your email address, your phone number is accurate, okay, and that your email address is professional. A lot of times people may not have invested in a professional email address, and then we see it on your resume that, you know, I'm a prettygirl.com or at gmail.com, whatever. We can kind of have laughs and giggles with that, but for your resume, it really should be professional. Okay, it should be professional. And then it's important that you do have a summary on your resume. With the summary, it talks about what have you been doing for the last 10 or 15 years. Just a quick high-level summary. There are categories where you should have your work experience on here as well. And then again, based off of the format of the resume that you have, will determine, you know, how that work experience will look. If it'll be a category off of or used because of a functional style resume, or will it look like this in a sense because it's a chronological resume where you have the title, you have the company name, and then you have your skills there. You should always have education on your resume. I normally have that category on there for people who have graduated from high school and or received additional training or went to school. And just because you didn't receive your degree, it still is important that you have that information on your resume, because it's important that the HR person knows that you are trainable. You've dedicated time into your career, and that even though you may not have received that particular degree, it's important that they know that you worked or you went to school at this particular time to this particular time. And then we can have some accomplishments in there and those keywords in there. So it is important that you do have an educational category as on there. Now, this additional information, I don't recommend it. To me, your resume is prime real estate. We need to have the right categories on there, the right keywords on there, the right accomplishments on there, the right wording on there. And so all this extra stuff, you don't need on there. And you may say, well, Kimberly, I don't have enough accomplishments, or I don't have a lot of work experience. That is my job as your resume writer, to pull that out of you to see what we can get on your resume. Okay. But again, I want to give you some examples of good and bad. Okay. Now, when you look at this resume, there's a lot on here. Some things that I really do like. I do like how they do have a section for keywords, even though I would do a little differently. They have information on here regarding where the person works. So as you can see, this is a chronological resume. Look like there's a lot of information on here, but just look at this. This person worked at all these different, they worked at this place for years, right? At these different places. And all they have to say about their accomplishments is this. That's not a lot. That's not a lot. And I submit to you, if that person had the time to work at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different places, there should be a whole lot more accomplishments on your resume, on their resume, for those places. Okay. All right. So again, I'm just giving you an idea just to see some things, and then we're going to get into some do's and don'ts. Again, here's another resume where you see someone, their contact information is at the top, even though you don't see their name at the top, it should be their name at the top. The objective. Now, this is an area where people say to me, do I really need to have an objective? There are a lot of articles out there saying, oh, you don't need an objective on your resume if you have a lot of experience, if you were looking for applying to an executive position. And I tell you this, that's one area that I think it's best to have an objective, because if you don't have an objective on your resume, then the HR person won't know what position you're applying for. You're making them guess, and you're making them do extra work, and they could guess wrong and file your resume in the wrong stack because you have experience in this area that may not be the job you're applying for. And the objective is the only place, the only location where people are able to know what position that you're applying for, okay? And again, with this objective is talking about they're looking for a consulting position. And imagine, so if this wasn't on here, the objective wasn't on here, it was all gone, and it just had the education and work experience. Think like an HR professional for a moment. How will we know what position you applied for? We wouldn't. So that is a benefit to having an objective on your resume, okay? Now, again, these are some resumes that I just kind of found on the internet, not the ones that I've created. So, of course, there's some things I don't like about it, but I want to give you an idea to sit in the HR person's seat and understand what are some examples of good resume and examples of bad resume, okay? Now, regarding relevant coursework, normally I wouldn't have that on the resume if the person has a lot of experience. To me, this is kind of just taking up some space, so I really don't like that. And again, skills and qualifications, it's good to have that information on there, but I think the format of it could be a whole lot better. And then for experience down here, you can see that it's kind of hard to read. It's kind of all mumbled together where you have the title and then the company name and their accomplishments. So you need to be able to let that stand out a little bit more so it doesn't look like it's all one big paragraph there, okay? So just giving you some examples, Now here's another resume that I saw on the internet, and we can kind of laugh at it, but it is so true. Some people even put their photo of themselves on the resume. Now, I'm gonna ask you all right now, do you think that's appropriate? Go ahead and type in there, do you think it's okay to have your photo of yourself on your resume? Go ahead and type, do you think you should? And I'm gonna go ahead and look at the chat here. Do you think you should? Okay, no, you're absolutely right. You shouldn't have your picture of yourself on your resume. Now, some countries, some people in different countries, they may do it. They may have their social security number on there. I've seen it. And they may have their date of birth on there. I've seen it. So I want you to know, don't do it. Now, we may say, Kimberly, this is so basic. Now, so if this is so basic, everybody, then why do we see people creating videos and saying, hire me, I'm a great person for this job, and you're showing them what you look like? That's not good. They haven't interviewed you, they haven't selected you, so you shouldn't let them know what you look like. And then again, going back to, if we're saying, oh, Kimberly, this is so basic, then why do people on their LinkedIn profile has this big picture of them on there? That HR person, that hiring person should not see and know what you look like until they interview you. They shouldn't know that ahead of time, because they could see what you look like and then discriminate against you. So for those of you who have a LinkedIn profile, or you may not know what LinkedIn is, It's spelled LinkedIn.com. It is a social media platform where people go to look for jobs as well as to network with other professionals. And if you don't have a profile, feel free to let me know, because I do have a prior recording of how to network on LinkedIn that I can send you. So as all the people that are watching us for our conference, if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, or if you do have one and you want to receive some additional training on LinkedIn, type down below, send me the link, okay? And I'll make sure to send you the link so that you're able to get some additional training on how to network on LinkedIn. So this is not basic because some people really don't understand it. They really don't understand it. And then you see that information on there as well. I see we got some questions coming in too. So someone asked a question, how are you supposed to fill in those gap of years of employment? Okay, so one thing with gaps with years of employment, ways to fill it in, first of all, is to identify what accomplishments you have received during that time. Sometimes people start a business, or they do consulting, or they go back to school, or they may work at another position on a part-time basis to get some experience, et cetera, whatever that is. Think of what did you do during that time frame? And then what we can do is then we can determine how that will be, how we will get that on your resume. But I want to encourage you that when you do have a gap, it may not be that bad. I think years ago, prior to the big downsizing that we all experienced in 2008, companies weren't used to people having a gap on their resume. But since 2008, HR professionals really do understand that sometimes it can be challenging to look for a job, et cetera. So if you have a gap on your resume, don't be that concerned with it, because really we understand, HR professionals understand that, sometimes it may take a while for somebody to find a job or whatever happened. The main thing is to know how you're going to talk about it in the interview. How are you going to explain what did you do during that time? And or another thing is we may need to look at your resume and see what did you do during that time frame so that there isn't a gap. So great question. I'm so glad that you asked that question. Another question came in is, never thought about that for LinkedIn, send me the link. Yes, I'll make sure to send you the link. And again, I love networking. I love LinkedIn. I really do utilize it. A lot of the people that I connect with on LinkedIn are HR professionals. I'm very strategic on LinkedIn. I want to make sure that whenever I need to connect or contact an HR person, I can. And so when LinkedIn was formed years ago, that was my strategy from the beginning. I did reach out to some people that I already had connections with on other social media platforms, but early on I said, that's going to be the place where my HR connections are going to be. So connect with me on LinkedIn as well, everybody. Then you have access to my HR people too, but I'm very strategic on that. So again, if you're looking for a job, your photo shouldn't be on there. And I know you want to keep it on your LinkedIn profile, but you really shouldn't. Okay. And here, this just gives you some other things to be mindful. Your resume should be clean. You should be able to read your name. Your contact information should be there. I don't agree with the LinkedIn profile if you have a photo of yourself. A lot of people are now adding their LinkedIn profile up there, a link to it. Here's an example of, again, an overview, if you would say, our career summary, what somebody has done and what they're looking for there. You see information about their education, and then you see some other interests. So again, there's a lot of white space on here, but to me, it really isn't saying anything. Like, look at it. You got your name, you got the summary, you have education, but where are the accomplishments? All of this space is one-page resume, and there really aren't that many accomplishments other than like four or five lines. Okay, so I want you to start thinking about things like that. Okay, so now let's talk about some things that you should be mindful of. Now, one thing I want you to be mindful of is called impact statement. Well, actually, let me switch over. I popped out of the screen sharing. Hold on one second. Okay, let's see what I just do. No, hold on one second. I'm going to get right into some slides and be able to answer your questions. One second. There you go. Common mistakes. So here's some common mistakes that I see on people's resumes, okay? And I'll make sure that you're mindful of it. Again, the name is too small. The heading for the name is really small, and it's hard to find out who the resume belongs to. One thing too that I see, people don't have their credentials included after their name. So if you do have licenses, etc., make sure you have those credentials after your name. Another thing that I say is a common mistake that I've noticed is that your resume is saying a whole lot of things, but it really isn't focusing on your accomplishments. Another common mistake that I see, people don't have their objective on their resume, and we've talked about the objective, the reason why you should have it. And sometimes I notice people don't have their career summary on there too. A career summary talks about what have you been doing over the last 10 to 15 years on there. Now here's a big no-no right here. It's important that you do have the right industry keywords and specific keywords on there. So based off of what position you're interested in, make sure you have the right keywords on your resume from that job posting, the right keywords on there based off of the industry that you're in. Because nowadays organizations, they just don't look at resumes, they use computer systems. And they get all these resumes, they put these resumes through this computer system, they type in there, okay, I want everybody who has management experience, they type in management, or I want everybody who has this particular degree, they type that in, or they type in there, I want somebody who has this particular license. And then out of all of the resumes that they receive, all the resumes that have those keywords on there, those 3 keywords they just typed in there will pop up. So as you can see, it really is important that you have the right information on your resume. Make sure that you have the right contact information on your resume as well too, because, and it's important that you have the right number so that when you're looking for a job, I don't want you to miss that phone call. That recruiter, that HR person may say, I'm impressed with Tanya's resume. Let me call her right now to schedule a phone interview. And if they call that number and it's disconnected, or they call that number and it goes to a voicemail that's not professional, they may or may not leave a message. So it's important that whatever number you have on there, that it really does go to you so that you're able to pick up the phone, answer it, and then be able to be there for that individual. Just because they call you doesn't mean they're going to call you back. So make sure you have the right phone number on there. And again, you already know how I feel about photos on there. We know we're not going to have any photos. Here's some other common mistakes too. Again, having a link to the LinkedIn profile page. That's a huge no-no, especially if you have your photo on there, okay? Using a template to create your resume, having too many gaps between your employment on there. I shared with you earlier, 1 or 2 is not bad, especially if you can identify what you did in that time frame. But if you have a lot of them on there, that could be a problem. If you're inconsistent or there's lies and things aren't accurate on there, they'll pull it'll come up in the interview. It'll come up and that's not good as well. And as you can see, here's some other mistakes that I commonly see too. Not having the right type of job experience on there, or it's not relevant. That's something to be mindful of. That's why it's important that you do look at that job description and you know what they're looking for so that you can say that you do have that experience, okay? Now, here's something that I'm known for. I'm known for how can we get numbers, dollar signs, and percentages. Write this down, everybody. Numbers, dollar signs, and percentages, meaning how can we quantify your accomplishments? So if you say that you've managed a team, then how many people? That's the number. How many people did you manage? If you were responsible for a budget and you had to purchase things, etc., then how large was that budget? There's a dollar signs, okay? And then percentages, if you improved a company process by what percent, or you decreased something by what percent, whatever it was, what was that percentage? And one of the reasons why I like to quantify your accomplishments and I look for numbers, dollar signs, and percentages throughout the entire resume. Each job should have numbers, dollar signs, and percentages. Each accomplishment should have it on there. The reason why that's critical is because, for one, it helps you to stand out over all the other candidates. Remember that HR professional may get hundreds of resumes for one job. And so when they go through your resume, they want to see, how do you stand out over all these other people who claim they have that experience? And by you quantifying your accomplishments with numbers, dollar signs, and percentages, that helps you to stand out. And they know that you're serious and you do have that experience. Another reason why I do look for numbers, dollar signs, and percentages is because as an HR professional, we read a whole lot of resumes really quick. And when you have numbers, dollar signs, and percentages throughout that entire resume, then it causes us to stop. It causes our eyes to stop and look at that number, that dollar sign, that percentage. So it slows us down to look at those accomplishments. And again, it allows you to stand out over the others. So those are some common mistakes that I've noticed when people create their resumes. Okay, another thing to be mindful of too is you don't have the right format. And I've already shared with you the different formats. That's critical, because just because your resume is in one particular format, it may not be getting the hits that you want. It may not be getting the interviews that you want because the format is wrong for what you really need. So that format really is critical. And then be mindful of symbols and images. Again, when you have to cut and paste your resume into different job boards and websites, the symbols may change up on you. So be mindful of that. You don't want to have all of your words. You've spent so much time, trying to work really hard to create this powerful resume, this wonderful format, and then you copy and paste your resume into this database or to this website or to this job board, and then the whole structure goes away, and then there's symbols all over the place. So be mindful of that as well. That's one of the reasons why I do recommend that your resume you have in a PDF format, because when you submit your resume to that hiring manager, you keep your format. And again, I want them to be in awe of your accomplishments. You want them to quickly see certain things on there. And when you just copy and paste your resume and put it into that job boards box on the website, you lose the format. And it just looks like words. Now, some companies, they've gotten smarter and better with that work and kind of keep some of the format. But again, my goal is that we don't lose your format. And the best way to do it really is to be able to submit your resume in a PDF format so that you don't lose your format. Okay. Here's some other mistakes to be mindful of. Again, having your font size too small. It really should be size 11 or 12. Those are the perfect font sizes. If you have a 2-page resume, make sure that your name is at the top of your 2nd-page resume, because I tell you, those resumes do get detached, or those cover letters do get removed from the resume by mistake. So if your name is only on your cover letter and the 1st page of your resume, and you have a 2-page resume, and your 2nd page gets lost or it gets kind of jumbled up in the stack, they don't know all of those accomplishments and all of your work experience, what resume, what person does this go to? So make sure you do have your name at the top of your 2nd page of your resume, your name, and then page 2. Okay. Now, one thing I will say too, I'm going to ask you this question, everybody. My question for you is, how can I rephrase this? Should a person only have a 1-page, can a person submit a resume longer than 2 pages? That's longer than 2 pages. So go ahead and type down yes or no. Do you think that it's appropriate for an HR person to receive a resume from a candidate that has a 3 or 4 or 5-page resume? What do you think? Go ahead and type in the comments there your thoughts regarding that. What do you think? Okay. And you're absolutely right, everybody. The best thing to be mindful of, your resume should be a 1-pager or a 2-pager. 1 or 2. Anything more than that is unacceptable. Now, I know there are some careers, some fields where they allow people to have a longer resume. So if you're in the healthcare field and you're a doctor, and they call them CVs in that industry, in the healthcare industry, they can have longer than a 2-page resume. And if you're an instructor or a teacher, again, they call them CVs. You can't have longer than a 2-page resume because they're documenting all the places that they've taught. They're documenting all the places where they spoke at different seminars, et cetera. So that's okay. But those are the only 2 times. So what that means for a majority of all of us in the world is that your resume really should be 2 pages. Oh yeah, there's another exception too. For those of you that are in the military and you're looking to work and have work at a federal company or federal job, a federal resume is longer than 2 pages too. So, and that's one of the things that we do with our nonprofit. We do help veterans, people in the military to transition and to find employment. And so a lot of them, if they want to stay and work for a federal company, then they would have a federal type of resume. So that's the other exception. But 95% of the rest of the world, you really should only have a 1-pager or a 2-pager. And I submit to you this, a lot of you may say, Kimberly, I don't have a lot of experience. I only should have a 1. That's not true. After meeting with me or meeting with the coach, they should be able to pull out information from you so that we can determine how can you walk away with a strong 2-page resume. It doesn't have to be a 1-pager. Because if you have a lot of accomplishments and you have a lot of work experience, that reader needs to know about it. We need to have it on there. And plus, we've learned today, we need keywords on your resume for those computer systems. So if you're trying to just eliminate a lot of information, only have a 1-pager, you could be doing yourself a disservice. So a 2-page resume is fine, but keep this in mind, everybody. It must be a strong 2-page resume, not a 1.5, not a 1 3/4, but a strong 2-page resume from top to bottom of that 2nd page. And if you need help with that, then you know I'm here to assist you with that. So those are some common mistakes that I've noticed, that I've seen with resumes. Let me see if I can go ahead and move on without getting kicked out the system again. So it's important that you do have a professional resume, okay? Make sure that you don't use templates. Here's another mistake that I see as well too. People like to list their references, or they may have a statement on there, references available upon request. I submit to you this, that if an HR person is interested in you, they will ask for your references at that interview. So don't give them more than what they want or need. So again, that resume really should be a 1 or 2-page resume. And we've talked about not having birth dates and headshots and all that information on there already. Okay. It's important that you do get your resume proofread. Make sure that it's created by a professional. This is an important document to have. And a lot of times people minimize the importance of it. Now, here's a clue. Whenever I see on the resume the wording responsible for or responsibilities included, whenever I see that phrase on there, that's a dead giveaway that that statement, that resume needs to be rewritten. Every word, every inch of that resume should have powerful, strong keywords on there and strong action words on there. When you have a bulleted statement that has, you're talking about your accomplishments, the thing to keep in mind is right after that bullet, it should start with a strong action verb like managed or oversaw or led or created or developed, etc. Okay. So again, when I see responsible for, I know it needs to be rewritten. Another mistake that I commonly see too, people may not include their graduation dates. Now I get it. For those of you that may be concerned with age discrimination, you don't want somebody, the HR person, to know what year you graduated from. Keep this in mind. The HR person has to confirm your degrees. They have to confirm your work experience. They have to confirm your licenses and your certifications. So when you have a date or a month and year that you've received that training or received that degree or graduated from that particular place, it It clears our minds knowing that your information is truthful. Now, if you don't have dates on there, it makes us wonder why don't have the, how come they don't have the dates on there? Again, it goes back to making us work again. Like, why is the date missing? Okay, and how can I verify that they work there? And, oh, here's a good one. Or for education, if there aren't dates on there, we're like, well, did the person graduate? Did the person get the degree? It's like, as you can see, everybody, it makes us think. And again, if I got your resume that I got to think, and this resume over here that gives me everything that I understand, there's clarity and there's peace here, and I don't have to work, which resume do you think I'm going with? Again, my goal is that you're able to understand what it's like to be an HR person. Now, if you have questions, feel free to type those in. I know we have around 10 minutes left, and I do want to answer your questions. So feel free to type your questions in so I'm able to answer them. Let me see. I thought I saw somebody have a question. So let's see if we had a question come through. One moment. So type your question in the chat, since we've been hanging out in the chat area. Type your question at the chat and I'll answer it for you. Here's a question I have. What if the employer is looking for a type of person and you have over 20 years of experience, which automatically reveals age? You know what? I understand that, and that's true. And that's something for me. Remember, I have over 25 years of experience in HR. So for me, I can put on my resume and my objective or in my career summary, over 25 years of experience, or I could put just over 20 years or just put 20 plus. You don't have to be exact and say how many years if you're concerned that you have too much and it may reveal age. So you can say 15 plus or 20 plus if you're not comfortable with the 25. And I've had mentors of mine say that as well. So I understand that can be a real struggle, a real concern. When you have the number and the plus after it, it just lets them know that it's more than that. But yes, but make sure that you do quantify your accomplishments by having those numbers on there. Make sure that you do have on your resume when you did go to the university or that college, et cetera, at least the year, the year you started and the year you ended. Now, for me, I like being exact. So if you received your degree, I want to be able to have on there as your resume writer that you received your degree, your bachelor's on April 12th, whatever, just so that it confirms it. But again, if you're concerned with age discrimination, all of that, you could just put the year, but no, if you don't have it on there, an HR person is still going to question it. We're going to wonder how come it isn't on there, And again, I want to make sure that you're accurate and that you're not making the HR person work extra. Okay. Are there any other questions? Go ahead and type your questions below. I'm going to give you a moment because I know we also are live in our group. So, and I don't see that here. So I'm going to go to our group right quick without this sounding off just to see if there's any questions in our group. So give me 1 minute because I do want to answer your questions. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to our group here on my phone here just to see if there's anybody watching it live here in our group, but if you have questions. Okay, all right. So it looks like we have a couple of people watching it live, but there aren't any questions there in our group. So if you have questions, feel free to submit your questions, everybody. I do want to be able to answer them. Okay. So one of the things I do want to share with you before we all see if there's another question. I love the questions, by the way. It's important to me that our sessions are interactive, especially this topic. It's hard for me to get to it. So type your question if you do have a question. Okay. All right. And remember, everybody, please make sure that you submit to me your resume today. So after this training, submit to me your resume so that I'm able to evaluate it, spend some time today going through your resume and giving you tips and giving you a score. Again, I rank all of my resumes from 0 to 3, and 3 being strong, the best, and that everything is fine. And I want to make sure I'm able to do that for you. So I'm going to go bypass here. The last time I did this, it kicked me out. So hold on. Okay. Here's some trends as it relates to resumes. Okay. I created this PowerPoint when I did the session for Michigan Works years ago. So you see the year 2015 on there, but some of this information still is applicable for us right now. One of the things that you should be mindful of regarding your job search and resume is that you have to be comfortable with applying for jobs online from your mobile device and using social media platforms. So if you don't have a LinkedIn account, I do recommend for you to have one, to get one. That way you're able to be wherever you are and you see a position, you can apply for that position or to that position right from your mobile device. And so some of you may want to have a Dropbox account where you can keep your resume there so that no matter wherever you are and somebody needs it, you can submit them a copy of your resume. Keep in mind, timing is everything when it comes to job search. It really is. As you can see too here, a lot of times people are using visual learning, just like we're on this webinar today. Be mindful that that is strong right now regarding job search, people using that for job search. I don't agree with using technology when you're trying to promote yourself on video to future employers. They really shouldn't know what you look like. I really do mean that. Because I was a diversity manager for Ford Motor Company years ago, and I had the opportunity to work at General Motors and U of M and other places too. And I know that discrimination really can't happen. And I want to make sure that you are not discriminated against based off of your look or whatever, because not every person who gets your resume or interviews you has been properly trained in it. We have some supervisors who really don't interview well, and they could be making some poor judgments and decisions based off of discrimination, okay, and prejudice. So here's something to be mindful of is that we are in the age of technology. Companies are using software to post jobs and to look for candidates, okay? So it's important that you're comfortable with using technology online. One of the things that is important that you do is be comfortable applying for positions from your phone. Some of you may use job boards or get alerts. How many of you have received alerts from different job boards letting you know about open positions? And if so, what alerts do you get? I know by me being a resume writer and a career coach, I get alerts every day too. So I know about open positions, and then I have friends and people who are looking for people as well too. But just be mindful to use those alerts when you get them. Here's another tip for you to be mindful of. Since we live in this day and age of technology, the HR person may be searching and Googling you to see what you're about. So here's an assignment for everybody that's watching this. Go on Google, type in your name and see what pops up, your first and last name, and see what pops up. Because 9 times out of 10, people are going to look for you and search you out and see what you're about on Google. I'm not saying it's right, but it's important that you know what's out there when you type your name in. Now, here's a tip for you. I do recommend for you to purchase your own domain name. So if your name, like my name is Kimberly Benjamin, I have a domain already purchased so that when I'm ready to create a website called KimberlyBenjamin.com, I control what people will know about me, or I can control what that employer will see. It will come up first, Kimberly Benjamin. There's KimberlyBenjamin.com coming up, right? And then I can put on there what I want people to know. So you may want to see, is your name available? Type your first and last name in.com, see what pops up. If that is clear and free, you may want to purchase that domain and then use that as a way to market your brand and market your accomplishments to employers. Based on the job type of positions you're interested in, there are different niche boards to use. So here just are examples of a board that people can use for veterans, for HR jobs, for nurse jobs, etc. Check out your industry. What are the job boards that people are using in your industry that you should have membership to, get job alerts to, or from every day, okay? Use those systems, use that software. Here we go with those video resumes. Again, I don't like it. As much as I like videos, y'all, I just think that HR person should know what you look like once they bring you in for an interview. So I am very concerned about that, very concerned. And we know that we live in a day and age where people will watch videos. And on that note, Go to YouTube and see what videos you have of yourself out there, because HR professionals may check you out on Google, check you out on YouTube, and then check you out on LinkedIn. So make sure that you are mindful to see what's out there on you regarding that. And you see here, YouTube, LinkedIn, people will use those resources to learn more about you. So I don't agree with the video, you letting people know you're looking for a job, but companies will use, Skype and other systems now when they want to interview you. So some of you may have already participated in video interviews. And when you do, don't shun that, because if they're serious about you, that's why they want to get to know you and interview you. So if you ever get asked for a phone interview or have a Skype interview, go ahead and take that. Go ahead and do it. Okay. And then the last couple things I want to mention is important that you do your research and that you are comfortable with social media platforms, that you're using the technology and that you're comfortable with it. A couple of best practices, some changes that I see that are happening with resumes. A lot of people now are using QR codes. This is a QR code that when someone scans this box here, then that person will go to your resume. They will go to your website, wherever you want them to go. So there was a time where people were using QR codes. I don't see this a lot now, but I have seen QR codes on the top of people's resumes. Okay, and again, it's all about you determining what you want that recruiter to know about you. Again, so when you would scan this, it's like a barcode, you would have that on your resume, you would have it on your business card. That person would scan it, and then they will be able to you would take them to wherever you want them to take them to, your LinkedIn page, your website, etc. These are just some technology trends that I'm seeing. Again, make sure you're able to apply online no matter wherever you are. Some companies or people use infographic resumes where you type in keywords about yourself and your accomplishments, and it comes up with this diagram like this that kind of lets somebody know up front, what are you about? What are your strengths, etc. So those are called infographic resumes. Again, I know it's kind of like techie here, but I just want to give you some extra bonuses here. Again, video resumes, I don't like it. Interviews, I understand it, but video resumes, I don't like it. Make sure you do have your LinkedIn profile updated and that you use it. And again, let me know if you need extra training on that. I'll send you the link today to the training that I did for that. Okay. And again, make sure that you do have Dropbox accounts, so no matter wherever you are, you're able to apply for positions. Okay. You're able to apply for it. So what I would like to do now is just open this back up for questions before we go, and to remind you to please send me a copy of your current resume so I can review it and give you the one-on-one attention that you need for your resume and give you your score and let you know what you really need to work on for your resume. So are there any questions before we go, everybody? It looks like we're pretty good right now without any questions. So I just want to, again, thank you for joining us during our conference today. If you do have a question, feel free to comment below in the thread on our page, and I'll be able to answer your questions for you as well. And I want to invite you to come back this evening at 7:00 p.m. where we're going to get into vision planning and goal setting. What do you need to do to start this year off right with your vision planning and goal setting? Your mission statement for your life, your vision statement for this year. What does that look like and how do you do it? I have one for my life, and I tell you, I use it, and it's amazing when I look at it and know how far I've come and then where I'm headed. So if you need some direction regarding putting together a vision statement, a vision plan, a mission plan for your life, then I want to invite you to come back at 7:00 tonight. And for those of you who have been attending our conference this week, I want to say I really have been enjoying it. I like our intimate group. I consider you family. I'm glad that you're learning a lot. Feel free to let me know how you're enjoying the conference too. Feel free to start thinking of questions you want to ask the presenters for this week. And in our group too, I want to encourage you to look at the post on our Facebook page that talks about, I have on there, please look at this post so you can see the schedule I do mean it. I do mean it, Vanessa. I want you to look at the post and get familiar with our schedule. And I want you to start preparing ahead of time, everybody. Prepare ahead of time. Think of what questions do I want to ask that presenter? Who knows, I may even have you submit some of those questions to me, so I have some already queued up. But what questions do you want to ask me tonight when we get into vision planning? What questions do you want to ask Denise when we speak with her tomorrow regarding, how to discover your purpose in business? What questions do you want to ask Jack Jones as it relates to how to discover your child's motive gift? Start thinking about those questions. What questions do you want to ask Pastor Andre Butler as it relates to change or anything that you want to ask? What questions do you want to ask Minister Michelle? So let's make our conference interactive. Feel free to still spread the word, to have other people attend if they want to. I'm at the point now where, more people come, cool, but, we're going to roll this thing out together and just continue our conference this week. And I know that we're pouring into you things that are changing your lives and really setting you up for success for this year. So I'm excited about it. And again, if you have questions, feel free to ask your questions. I think we have a couple more I'm going to answer now. And for those of you from yesterday, I will be, as I promised you, thank you so much for submitting to me your homework regarding those 7 questions to answer regarding your career goals, etc. And thank you for going to the Purpose GPS website. I have started since receiving the reports and the emails from our system letting me know that you completed it. I promise you by the end of our week for our conference that, we'll be putting together a plan and giving you some additional resources that can help you with identifying your career, the career that's best for you. And believe me, everything is just building and building and building. There's a reason for why we do things in order. Okay, so if you haven't completed your Purpose UPS yet, make sure you do that today. If you haven't submitted to me the answers to those 7 questions regarding your career, submit it to me today so that I'm able to work on that. So at the end of our conference, I'm able to give you a plan and give you some resources. Okay, all right. So let's see if we have any more questions before we go. Let me see here. All right, so we have, let's see here, we already answered those questions. I think we're all set, everybody. Okay, I have one question that says here, what if all of your experience is in administrative or management, but you want to move away from that area? How do you move from that area? Great question, Marshall. First of all, I would say, you would definitely want to have a functional resume. And that's one of the reasons why I started with that. Functional resume gives you more latitude and creativity and allows you to focus on identifying what you want the employer to know about you. If you had a chronological resume, that's all that they would see. They would see the management and stuff, the stuff that you're trying to get away from, right? Because you would see the job title, you will see the company that you work for, and you'll see your accomplishments. So it's like you're forcing them to look at it that way. So for one, I would say you need a functional resume. Okay. And then 2 ways to get that experience is volunteering comes to mind. You could also get it through other jobs. If you're interested in starting another job, if that's not your direction right now, then we would have to have a one-on-one consultation. I would highly recommend for you to consider allowing me to be your resume writer. There's a fee for that, but I would consider that. I want you to consider that because we can have our consultation and I'm able to listen to you, listen to all the different accomplishments and your responsibilities for each job you had in your life so that I'm able to know how we can build and create a new resume for you. So even though you say that's all the kind of experience you've had, I'm going to stretch you and say, nah, you have more than that. And it's my job to help pull that out of you so that we can put on your resume what we want the employer to focus on. Okay, so for that, I would recommend a counseling session, meaning a new resume, so we can focus on that for you. But outside of that, volunteering, you can get it from that or a new job. You can get it from that. But a lot of times when someone has experience, they have a lot of experience in different areas. You just don't realize it. You've just been focused on that particular function. Okay, so that's something we can work with and figure out together. Okay, all right. Well, you all have a wonderful day. Oh, let me see. You're welcome. You're welcome. So you all have a wonderful day. I'm going to go ahead and log off and see you back here at 7 o'clock tonight. Check your emails just in case I sent you any information that you may need to have. But you all have a wonderful day. Okay, I feel like I'm rambling now, so I'm going to go. But you all have a wonderful day. See you later on this evening, okay? Be blessed, everybody. And remember, today's a great day to do what? Start living your life on purpose. All right, then. Bye, everybody.